Now, in this video, we're going to take one of our photo references and using our imagination, we're going to heighten the reality just a little. So now, if you remember in the first 2-3 videos, we kind of just talked about how to, start our animal sketch, how to construct a sketch with a gesture drawing, and then adding in the shape and the anatomy. And then in the previous video, we talked a little bit about the different, very iconic, popular characters that are out there right now in media. So I want to kind of do my own little take on it and just show you how I take a reference image and, evolve it into something that could be a little more fun and that has more character to it. Now, I would also do this similarly for my Goldilocks character as well. Of course, since she is a cat, I would also be looking up very popular, iconic characters of a cat that are in media right now. Obviously, one of the most popular ones probably being Puss in Boots by DreamWorks Animation. And of course, there's plenty of them to also see in every Disney movie out there, like the Aristocats and Oliver and Company. So, of course, if you are creating an animal out of your own imagination, be sure to look up reference images of, real life drawings of animals, and also to look up images of characters that we see in popular media, and try and merge those two together, understand how they were made and what makes them work and what makes them unique, and apply that to your own drawings. Now, the sketch that you see here in front of you, I'm using the photo reference on the left to kind of create or to kind of use it as a guideline for the character that I'm creating. When I personally go to the zoo myself and do my own animal drawings, after about an hour of just drawing, the same kind of animal jumping up and down, it gets kind of repetitive and boring. So I tend to kind of play with them a little bit and start to have fun with them. I imagine them as being maybe more humanoid and giving them a character that I can relate to. For example, what if I've been drawing elephants for a while and then I'm like, I see a very cute elephant doing something funny and, add maybe a ballerina tutu dress, and instantly you kind of take your drawing to a whole nother level and it just becomes so much more fun. So right here, like you can see, I've picked an image reference of a bear, and I really like this particular pose because it's kind of a grumpy looking bear, and I think I can add a lot of character to him. Now we're starting out with doing the gesture drawing first, and again, I am really paying attention to the photo reference, but I'm adding my own touch to it. For example, if you take a look at the ears, I've flopped them over just a little. And the reason for this is I'm adding some character to my drawing. And now that I'm kind of done with the gesture drawing on a new layer, let's start focusing on adding in the shape and design and structure to our drawing. Now, if you take a look at my gesture drawing, notice that he has a little mug in his paw. And this is because when I looked at the photo reference, I tried to envision my character and who I think he could be. I kind of imagine him to be this kind of very sad character that would probably be going to work every day and hates his job. And again, I'm thinking of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. I'm imagining this to be Papa Bear, and that, maybe he's not having the best day, right? And then he comes home to his house, and Goldilocks is basically eaten all their food. So, this is me kind of setting the premise for that story. So I envision who my Papa Bear could be and, use the photo reference to help you tell that story. So he's got these, as I mentioned earlier, I kind of made his ears a little more floppy, and the reason for that was to make him look a little more defeated, make him maybe look a little more sad. And I want to try and bring out as much of that character as I can into the sketch that I'm doing, but also maintain the structure of the photo reference that I have. And notice now, like with the drawing that I'm doing, it's very stylized, right? But you can still see the pose in there. You can still also get a sense of the anatomy, right? Like I very loosely kind of drawn where the elbow would be, where the jaw would be. And I'm just going to go ahead and sketch in and color in just the darker parts. And now, like showing you in the previous videos, I'm going to add in some very short strokes to give an indication of fur and just to show the layers of all the different layers on his face as well. Now I'm changing up the image reference a little bit, and I'm going to give him like this really funny long-sleeved kind of office shirt. So we're going to dress our character up essentially now. And I'm using my imagination in this case, right? I'm still using the photo reference, adding in the folds and ruffles, but I am going to heighten that reality just a little. Now, I know it looks like I'm being repetitive and just drawing over my drawing again, but I'm just kind of laying down a stronger structure and just understanding the shapes and, you know, adding cleaner lines just so that it makes sense. Now on a new layer with a nice big brush, make sure to set that layer to multiply. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to start adding in that shadow right around the darker parts. And again, you know, you can use the reference that is there, but also try and, you know, don't add too much detail. Again, I'm trying to create a character out of this that's a little more stylized. So similarly, when you attempt this on your own, try not to get too distracted by all that crazy shine and, you know, fur pattern that's on his body. Try and simplify it as much as you can. And this is something that you will learn after doing, you know, a lot of your own animal drawing, what parts to keep out and what parts to keep in. Now I personally love adding shadow to my characters because it instantly kind of brings the sketch to life. It just gives it so much depth right away. And, you know, let's lower the opacity of this. And what I want to attempt now in the next session is adding in some color. So why don't we just go ahead and do that? I think that, you know, adding in color will really bring that character to life. And not just kind of leave it to a sketch. And you know, try this. I especially with animals, there's just so many different colors that you can attempt yourself. So for this bear character in particular, I'm just going to use a nice warm brown for the color tone. Nothing too intense, and I'm just using a very simple color. I'm not going to add in too much detail. So, you know, selecting your brush of choice, I personally have used a dual brush, a nice big round one. On a new layer, using your multiply filter on that layer, let's just go ahead and fill in our entire character. So this way, because I have the multiply filter on, everything underneath will be like, you know, will be visible essentially. So that shadow, that gray shadow that I have will now look like a nice dark brown shadow. I'm going to select a very light kind of desaturated blue, and I'm going to go ahead and color in his shirt, and then using a very pale yellow I'm going to fill in his mug as well. And I want the snout to stand out a little more. And of course, if you look at our reference image, it's kind of the same. But again, this is my own translation. This is my own imagination. And if you remember looking at the images that I showed you in the previous video of the popular iconic bear character designs, you know, they have that variation. A lot of them have different colored snouts. And so, you know, you can take your own discretion at that and see if it works. See if this is something that you can play with and have fun with it, you know. If it doesn't work, take it out. In this case, I kind of like it. I think it adds a lot to my character, so that I'm going to go ahead and keep it then. And now on a new layer, I'm just going to go ahead and start adding in some much darker shadows. We want to go ahead and bring in some real contrast to our character. I'm not doing it on a multiply layer. Essentially what I did was I just color picked the brown. You can do that by hitting the Alt or Option key on your keyboard, and this will select the colors that are on your canvas. And I've just picked a much more darker tone, and I'm going in there and now coloring in that shadow. And of course I am looking at my reference in this case, and notice how I'm painting or with a very like thin angular kind of brush, and this is so that I can have that variation of thick and thin lines, especially when I'm going to be painting fur as well. Now I've gone ahead and painted in his nose a nice big dark black, and I'm just adding in this gray color on the top and just a slight highlight to give it that definition so it doesn't look too flat. Go ahead and add some more shadow to his bottom lip. It doesn't need to be as visible. Now I want to go ahead and start adding in a little highlight. I'm not going to, overdo it too much, just in a few places. I want to keep it, keep the drawing as simple as possible and only bring out certain aspects of the bear's face. Now I'm going to go ahead and start adding in the highlight down on his sleeve area and as well as his mug. Now on a new layer, using the multiply filter, I am going to select a nice warm red and add in some slight blush into his cheeks. This is something that, I'm adding my own touch. Usually when you add blush or color to the face of a character, you're kind of bringing in that slight humanoid or, human characteristic, human feature to your character. It just kind of makes them more relatable almost. Even though they are a bear, I'm slowly starting to identify with him, right? Like he's wearing a shirt, he's carrying a mug. So these are, some ways to really play with your photo reference and really kind of, let your imagination have fun. And now on a new layer, I'm just going ahead and adding in some more contrast to the drawing around the shirt. We just want to start bringing out some, extra characteristics, changing it a little so that it has more perspective and dimension, doesn't feel so flat and maybe a little, mushy and loose, right? We want to just tie it in and make it look tighter and a little more detailed. Going to go ahead and add in some slight highlight and bring out some parts, and I'm going to also go ahead and add some color to the mug so it looks like he's drinking his morning coffee. And I thought what would be a little fun, something that would maybe add a little more character to our bear is maybe let's write something funny on the mug. What would somebody who probably works all day, what kind of a mug would he have? How about I hate Mondays? I can totally relate to that, and I'm sure many people can as well. So, this is just a little extra addition. This is something that I came up with on my own. So you too, when it comes to kind of reinterpreting your own characters, add fun little silly elements like this, that really tell us who our character is. And it's kind of interesting, right? Like I just had a photo reference and I did, I've turned it into this. So, what I did was I made my character something that we can all relate to. Now, he's not just a bear. He's a bear that really hates Mondays. And, I think I'm quite happy with the sketch. I think I'm going to go ahead and add an adjustment layer. I'm just going to up the saturation a little, the color balance as well. I want him to feel a little warmer. Right now the colors are a little dull. And I'm going to just go over that again and add in a few last touches. Like I was thinking maybe I would add a tie to him. Maybe there were a few highlighted spots I could emphasize. Nothing too much though. We still want to just keep it simple. And now I think we're pretty much done with the character. I'm just going to add the final touch, the tie. I hope that this course was able to give you a good understanding of what I did. So in order to be able to create your own characters from your imagination, be sure to have that strong life drawing foundation before you proceed into doing any project, whether it is a bear, whether it's a cat, or whether you're even doing an astronaut. Draw from life before you begin anything and really understand the character that you're going to be working on. And be sure to understand and study your anatomy as much as possible, and try to go life drawing at least once a month. And if you can pay a visit to the zoo, that would be ideal. Life drawing, especially animal life drawing, has really helped me with my own creative process, and it is one of the most fun things that I really enjoy doing, because I get to basically hang out with animals all day and draw them, which is super fun. And try and take that knowledge that you learned from your animal sketching and start applying it to your own character designs, and you will really start to see the difference. And I think we're pretty much done. I'm quite happy with our cute little grumpy bear character who's not having such a good day at work and really hates Mondays. For more videos and courses just like this, please visit tudpat.com. Happy animal sketching!